Over there's the other entrance to Green Park Station on the other side of Piccadilly. And I'll continue east along Piccadilly before we reach the street on the northern side called Dover Street. And we'll start on the walk to Oxford Circus station, zigzagging across Mayfair. The Ritz Hotel is ahead. When it opened in 1906, it was designed to feel like Paris. The building features neoclassical architecture in the Louis XVI style, constructed during the Belle Epoque, to resemble an elegant Parisian apartment block above arcades. And they're supposed to evoke the feeling of the Rue de Rivoli. It's extremely un-London-like. I've written an article on how the tale of this hotel actually started with a direct connection to the operas of Gilbert and Sullivan. There's a link in the video description to that. We'll admire the Ritz, but cross Piccadilly here and set off up Dover Street. Dover Street Underground Station opened on the 15th of December 1906, the same year as the Ritz, and the station originally had lifts which ran down from the ticket hall to the platforms below. But when escalators became a thing, these require a slope from the ticket hall to the platforms. This was best achieved in this case by resiting the station entrance completely. This is why Dover Street Station is no more, and Green Park Station, with a better name for the new location, was built a couple of streets further west. I'm going to walk along here until the first right of Stafford Street. As we're zigzagging across Mayfair, we'll visit a lot of streets, and I'll try to find something interesting to talk about with each street in a caption. So there was an old pub, Duke of Albemarle. At the bottom there is Bond Street. But we're going to hike a left, just because there's interesting stuff before we get to all the rich people. Though it is rush hour. And not only that, it's getting dark, so there's a lot of traffic everywhere. Not that traffic is caused by it getting dark, but it's that time of day. It's 6 o'clock. Right, those are the last of the left and right turning cars. Left turning cars, it's a one-way street as on last street. This is another of London's really posh hotels, Brown's on the left. Lots of famous things have gone on inside and lots of famous people have stayed there. And there's a closer view of the Royal Institution. It's well worth a visit. There's a museum in the basement and a cafe, as well as the lecture theatre. If you're lucky enough to attend some of the BBC Christmas lectures, you'll get to see it. Although the seats are rather uncomfortable, it must be said. It's the top of Albemarle Street, and things are going a bit upmarket given our proximity to Bond Street.
So as most Londoners will know, there is no such street as Bond Street, despite the station with the same name. We have New Bond Street and Old Bond Street. So down Cook Street here, that's the very back of the Burlington Arcade. And Old Burlington Street ahead. So just a couple of blocks from Bond Street, they can buy all your handbags and shoes. You can take your husband to Savile Row, where he can buy his suits and shoes. And that's the street just ahead. The inevitable white van in the way, but that's quite nice. And that's a real feature of the West End of London. You finish work, gather down the pub, and because of the smokers amongst you, you gather outside the pub.
I read all the comments on every video, and lots of times there's a comment when I've walked down such and such a street. The comment will say, well, you walked down this street and didn't visit this thing. Well, I do have the advantage that I do the central London walks in both directions. So there's an Oxford Circus to Green Park Walk equivalent where I cover other things and other streets. But inevitably I miss things, and if I didn't turn right along Savile Row here, I'd miss the location where the Beatles had their final concert. Well, to tell the truth on this walk, I didn't turn right, but here's a view of that final concert on the 30th of December 1969 at 3 Savile Row. But I'm turning left.
Despite you wanting amazing views of your walk, London is a working city and things get in the way. So continuing north on Savile Row, another white van. Some more people outside pubs. So as we walk around St George's Church, George's Hanover Square, this is Maddox Street. And this is St George's Street, which will lead up to Hanover Square with any luck. St George Street, no apostrophe. So this is St George of the street.
I sent an apology. Mia has said let's move forward. The only person who hasn't.
I do love snatch conversations. So this is a statue of William Pitt in Hanover Square, and we're now very near to our final destination. We could go down this road, but we won't.
See, when I told you that the GQ was
I will have to navigate this zebra crossing without getting run over. It's indeed got a bit late.
By law, London cab drivers weren't allowed to leave their cab while it was parked in the road, and this made it difficult for them to obtain hot meals. If they drove to a pub, for instance, to buy food, they then had to pay somebody to look after their cab while they were inside the building. And so the Cabman's Shelter Fund was established in 1875, and these were small green wooden huts staffed by an attendant who sold food and non-alcoholic drinks to the cabbies. The huts were provided with a kitchen in which the attendant could cook the food. And this is the remaining one here on Hanover Square. We'd be nothing without old maps on this channel, and this is the route I have walked and am about to walk from Green Park Station to Oxford Circus Station, as it would be on the 1860s map issued by Edward Stansford, dated 1865 indeed, and the streetscape as it would feature in the 2020s is in place. The only difference being, if you see Oxford Circus at the very top of the map, roughly in the middle, is labelled Regent Circus, and Piccadilly Circus, which is sort of bottom right-ish, where Piccadilly and Regent Street meet. Well, Piccadilly Circus is also labelled Regent Circus in the 1860s. If we go back to the John Rock map dating from the 1750s, we have a major difference in the streetscape, in that Regent Street and Piccadilly Circus do not exist. It predates the Regent Street remodelling of the area. We have a major street called Great Swallow Street, roughly following the top of Regent Street, going down from where Oxford Circus would be. And then there's a maze of streets before we'd reach where Piccadilly Circus would be. I'll just phase back the 1860s map just to show the difference again. Anyway, back to the modern walk, and we were admiring that taxi hut. By appointment to the Prince of Wales, I assume that's King Charles's appointment, i.e. the former Prince Charles, and not Prince William.
But this is Prince's Street, so well on topic of that bit of conversation. And that's Regent Street at the top.
As we join Regent Street, we're approaching Oxford Circus station.
When the Victoria line came, they built a new junction underneath Oxford Circus itself. So there's now an entrance on every corner. And you can take the tube through any corner of Oxford Circus, which I guess is more convenient, but the previous building was rather delightful, but inadequate. I think it probably even had lifts built in 1900 as part of the Central Line. But this is the Victoria Line. Well, the walk in the Victoria Line. Green Park to Oxford Circus. So down there are happy commuters.